Welcome back to Room 101, and it's another of the Wee Fan series. This time I am delighted to welcome back Craig Anderson, Kelly fan and Twitter hero, back to the show. Well, Craig, how goes you?
I'm doing well. It's getting dark and getting cold, but apart from that, I can't complain.
There's football everywhere, mate.
Exactly.
I was saying this last night. We've took a break for the football to watch the football. Brilliant.
And it's been pretty good to have a wee break for this Kelly team at the moment. So.
Well. So the last time me and you spoke was match day 3 when you were full of hope and optimism. But looking at it, it's been a rough season so far for the Championship champions. So your 15 points with 16 games mean you're sitting in 11th position, or joint 10 if you want to look at it positively, with Ross County. 2 points off Motherwell in 9th and 3 points better off in bottom club Dundee United. So before we get hammered into the stuff, let's have a wee catch up. Is it good to be back in the top league losing, or is there a pine for the dominance of the Championship?
I'd still rather be where we are than now.
Right, good.
I don't like last season. I think I said this to you last time we were on. If we had run away with the league, it might have been different. If we'd been winning the league, but we weren't really. So I don't mind being back, and we are still. The good thing is we've not gone on. The start of the season was particularly poor in terms of the results, but since then we've not gone on like an extended run of losing games. It's been kind of, we've always picked something up. I think that's kind of McInnes all over. When he was at Aberdeen, it was the same. You never went too long without a good result, and we finished on a high. We beat Hibs in the last game before the break, which I think made a big difference in terms of the mood. And now I think this month off is probably good for us and lets us refresh a bit.
Right. Okay. So it's funny, right? So I was talking to Mark last night, and Mark's a big hibby, and he was scunnered with that game you've just brought up there. He says he battered you, and so I didn't see it myself. But so what has the script been? Is it a case of Derek McInnes finding his feet in this league, or is it basically this is how it is? If that makes any sense.
I think I maybe mentioned the last time I was on, one of the issues has been when we got relegated and we tried to sign a team for the Championship, we signed a lot of players on 2-year deals.
You did say that, yeah.
We've still got a lot of the guys kicking about, and I think it's damaged their ability to maybe bring in Premiership level players. So I think we're kind of in this situation this year where basically, if we stay up, they'll clear house in the summer, and then it'll be a whole new squad. So I think we just need to limp our way to 10th. And I think McInnes is well known for being pragmatic. He's not done as well as I'd have hoped since he started, basically. But at the same time, I think not long after we spoke, he got a new 3-year contract, and I was generally happy with that because I think the club needs a bit of stability, but it needs to be good stability. Obviously, there's no point in being stability when you just lose every game. I think it's been a struggle in that respect of just getting things together. But to be honest, since we started the season without our wingers being fit, and since we've been able to get a couple of wingers into the team, it's made a big difference. And Daniel Armstrong's been the surprise of the season. He's scored a lot of goals, but just generally, since we've had them back, the form has been much better, and I'm just hopeful that We've got to me three decent wingers at this level, and if we can just keep 2 of them fit at least for the rest of the season, we'll hopefully that'll be just about enough to kind of keep our heads above water.
So you sound not totally optimistic going ahead, right? But in your head there is a plan of attack, and if we kind of go in this way, then it'll work. It should work here. Yeah. Is that the general feeling of the support, or is it usual fickle football fans who are why don't we have Ancelotti as manager? You know what I mean?
I think there's a mixed bag. I think there's a lot of folk are in the kind of same boat as me. I don't think anyone's like universally delighted with McInnes since he came in, but at the same time, most folk I think are similar to me. But there are people who are kind of a bit more. It's hard because if you think back to it was only 3 years ago we finished third, and we were I mean, that's the best team in my lifetime, but it's very easy to forget all the other 20 years of the Premiership where we were kind of doing what we're doing now, and not all of them, but a lot of them. And I'm willing to, as long as we stay up this season, I'm willing to kind of go clean slate for next year. I think the thing that will make a big difference is we've obviously got the semi-final against you in January. Now we will almost certainly get pumped in that game, but I think just the revenue from that, the money, will potentially be what pays for a player that will keep us up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and coming at a decent time for you. It's not coming like the end of January where you're kind of flung. It's right in the middle of the month, so if you do it right, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. It's interesting with the Derek McInnes thing, right? Because we spoke about him, and it's almost as if, which is mental considering what you just said to me. You finished third only a matter of seasons ago, yet Derek McInnes seems to be almost. You should be thankful he's here. That's what I kind of like. If you watch the open goal and all that, they kind of go, I mean, why don't they just go for Derek McInnes? I mean, he's at Kilmarnock, and you're kind of going, it's a wee bit disrespectful, isn't it?
I think I've got that. Yeah, I've got that vibe from. I mean, don't get me wrong. We won the championship and we appointed him. I was like, how the hell have we managed to get him? But he's definitely not ever given me that impression. To be honest, I've been really impressed with him as a guy since he came in. He's been humble about it. But you're right that the attitude from a lot of other places has been, you should be thankful to have him and all of that stuff, which you're never going to like to hear. Do you know what I mean?
No.
I mean, you'll have had it with managers in the past as well, and it's probably Strachan would have been the one for Celtic where it was like, you were winning leagues and folk are like, how can they be annoyed? But fans will know that there's other stuff going on.
I have an opinion. Gordon Strachan bugged my tits, but as you say, you've got to take a wee step back. Right, okay, so that's that, right. So I've already sent you a message, and it was the same as, it's going to follow the same scope as which I spoke to the other boys. So basically, I'm just looking for your perspective. As I sit right now, I'm almost halfway point through the teams, and whilst I haven't been majorly surprised by what I've heard, there has been a few wee things that people have said to me. I've went, oh, for fuck's sake, that's pretty good, aye. So now you're a wee bit different because you're a Kilmarnock fan, but you're based in Glasgow, so your story's a bit different from a guy who stays in Kilmarnock, obviously. So let's start off with your basic journey to Celtic Park, right? Would you? I presume you would either get public transport or you would just drive along, right? So the two things I'm going to open up with, right? The price. So the price is the massive one for everybody, myself included. And then, what's your experience of travelling to Celtic Park? Do you get grief? Do you find it a problem parking? Do you have a problem walking through Celtic fans?
So I'll start at the start. So obviously I grew up in Ayrshire, so I have kind of had experience of travelling through. I never lived in Kilmarnock. I grew up in well-known Celtic hotspot, Co-Winning is where I'm from.
Jeez.
But no, but when I lived there, we used to often get, like, one of our pals would drive us and we would go in the car, and parking obviously around about Celtic Park, but we're talking about over a decade ago, but parking was always difficult. We'd always get the kind of, here's a £5 to watch my car kind of guy, and you'd just be like, right, I'll better pay this. But
yeah.
I think it's a wee bit different now.
You still get the guys.
I'm just thinking, I've not been in the car in a long time, but now I'll generally go on the train. I live on the same line that you can get the train direct, so it's very handy for me. In terms of grief from Celtic fans in that respect, I've never found Celtic fans that bad, and we also I've never had any major issues. I even remember when we beat you in the cup final, getting the train back from Hampden into the city centre with a bunch of Celtic fans, and there was not really a great deal of grief we've had. So that's my experience. I get the train to football a lot. I'm used to the raucous, the rowdiness of it, and Celtic fans are no different in that respect. But I've never felt in danger or anything. It's just like, I think we're probably a small enough fry that you don't care about us, and so that probably makes it a wee bit easier.
I don't think it's as bad as that, because that sounds bloody awful, doesn't it? I mean, nobody wants to hear that, but I don't think it's that. I think it's more, if Kilmarnock beat Celtic, generally Celtic fans will go, what have we done?
Aye.
Rather than, well, we've just been fucking pumped off of Kilmarnock. It's more a case of he was shite, and we'll turn around at you and go, well done, my man. Know what I mean? I mean, don't get me wrong, you will get, same as in every line of life, you will get that utter ball bag. But I like to think Celtic fans have got an appreciation that they can kind of go, especially when like Celtic go to Europe and get fucking skited off everybody, that you think when you win, you hope nobody's going to give you any shit. Do you know what I mean?
The only time I remember it was the game where you lost the league at Rugby Park. That was 2003. It was a long time ago, and you obviously beat us 4-0. And I remember driving away for the stadium that day, and there was Celtic fans kind of booting the car and chucking stuff at the car and that. But it's a very isolated incident in that respect.
Day, Craig, I'll tell you, that day I nearly got into a fist fight with a guy because he was shouting at a guy and his boy, a Kilmarnock fan, and I was going to leather the guy because he was just acting like an absolute prick. I mean, because as you usually, but your team get beat as well.
We get pumped that day, but I think the other thing that maybe helps our experience in terms of that is that we never actually we've only won once at Celtic Park in 70 years, so it's not exactly like we're going to get much grief in the way away.
Was that the Jim McIntyre game, or was that one each?
That was one each. I think it was a wee bit later on. It was Big Killian Sheridan scored in that game.
I do remember
it was just a few months after the cup. We beat in the cup actually, but that was when Kenny Shields was manager, and only two Kelly managers in my lifetime have ever really been able to beat Celtic regularly, and that was him and then Clark. I mean, Clark had probably done it 2 or 3 times.
Jeez, what a guy!
But no. So I've never had a bad experience in terms of that. Apart from I don't know the East End that well. I mean, I grew up in Ayrshire. I've spent a lot of time city centre, worked in the West End, live towards the west of the city. I don't know the East that well. It's different to where I'm used to in Glasgow, but I've been in enough places in Scotland not to be worried about it, and I don't find the folk in any way any hassle. It's just it's if you're driving, it's a pain in the arse to get to, and if you're in the train, you have to be willing to be crammed in with opposing fans, but that doesn't bother me.
So would you get off at Brighton or would you get off at Kilmarnock?
I've probably done both. I'm trying to think where. It's probably Kilmarnock most often, but I've done both. But I've found I did this for years. I used to go off I used to walk the wrong way to Tynecastle, the longer way to Tynecastle for about 15 years before I realised that I could actually get there like 10 minutes faster going a different route. I think you just get into a habit of just following somebody. But yeah, I've got to say it's actually probably been 5-6 years since I've been. For various reasons, but I think I've mostly had been Kilmarnock, but I've actually not been since I moved to where I am now. So I don't know if that would be which one would be easier now. But
well, they're on the same line, so it's always like because it was interesting. I was chatting to the Motherwell boy and Mitch, and he was saying that he generally because Motherwell would be on the same line, coming down the way.
The other way.
And he would get off at Brighton and walk up, which I thought was kind of weird because you're further away, do you know what I mean? But it's yours. Right, so ticket-wise, so you've just said there you've not been a wee while, so the tickets have went up again since you've been, but it seems to be a massive bone of contention because we seem to be the dearest away game in the league. So just your opinion on that.
It is the most expensive, and it's one of the things that puts you off, I think, like especially when the problem for me is, right, you go to support your team, but it's much easier to be paying the money when you're not thinking I'm going to pay 35 quid, I think it is now, and then I'm going to go and we're most likely going to get beat 5-0. And I guess the issue is, like, and we'll probably get onto this, like, for Celtic fans, Celtic Park's probably one of the best grounds in Scotland, and it'll feel like one of the best grounds in Scotland. For an away fan, it doesn't, because the away section.
This is exactly what I'm looking for.
The away section isn't a good place to watch football from. I mean, I don't know if any Celtic fans were maybe in there last season when they were when obviously they shut it for a week, like they'd done the red zones and all whatever they were called.
Yeah, that bumfly.
It's not. I've been in the other bits of Celtic Park at times, and it is a great place to be. I've never been. I keep meaning to try and get to a European game, but I've not been. But even I've been to Scotland games there, and I've been to a couple of Celtic home games there with friends that I grew up with that are Celtic fans, and it's a good place to be if you're in the home end, but when you're kind of stuck up in that away end, to be paying £35 for that experience, and I don't subscribe to the idea that, you know, you should pay a premium for who your team is, but Celtic fans to some extent are being forced to pay £35 because they're going to watch Celtic and there's loads of demand to go and watch Celtic. I'm not going to watch Celtic. If I can pay a tenner or less the next week to go to Perth or something, if I've got to pick and choose, it's the one I'm going to pick and choose last, because I've said I've got a wee one now and I can't go to every away game. So if I'm picking an away game to go to, it's near the bottom, even though it's the just about the closest. Well, here in Ibrox, it's the two closest, and you have to make that judgment, and it's often the reason I don't end up going.
Yeah. Well, that's 100%. I mean, we'll come on to the actual part itself, but so I'm going to kind of ask you to talk for the Killie fans here, right? And obviously talk for yourself as well. But like you say, you come yourself, or you come with your mates on the train, and you say you're comfortable enough walking through. Would you be comfortable enough to go for a pint and a boozer around Celtic Park?
I don't know the area, so probably I'd probably not, like, because I
mean, is that something you say you get the trains to games? Is that something you would do? Different places.
Some places, like I lived in Edinburgh for a couple of years, so I always know where to go for playing through there. Or and there's some towns that, you know, it's kind of like, there was always one we used to always go to, especially at Love Street. We used to always go to the same one. And now we still go to the same place, even though the stadium's moved.
Aye, well, they've ruined that, haven't they? They're bloody that. I think that's the worst away thing ever.
Yeah, it's stuff like that. So, but with Celtic games, because we used to come in the car, we never did that, and now. Yeah. I mean, I go to the Barrowlands quite a lot, but I always think even the pubs round about there, I get the same vibe. It's like they come across as very Celtic-y pubs, and I almost feel like you'd walk in and there'd be folk kind of turning. I've never done it, but I imagine they'd turn their head and look at you and kind of be like, "What the fuck are you doing in here?" kind of thing. But so I've never really gone, and that might be incorrect. There might be places that are welcoming, but it's never been my experience. It's never been something I've tried to do.
Yeah. I mean, like, because we were talking recently, that hotel at the back that I used to allow all us in down at your ground, but now since we're all kind of putting that stand, you can't get to that. Do you know what I mean? Which is a shame, because that was brilliant. That was really, really good. As you say, mixture of fans and all that, no problem, no snash. But right, so before we get into the ground, police and steward wise, are you seeing anything different at Celtic Park than you see anywhere else, or is it just your usual away fan experience?
The hard thing is, like, we are probably small enough that most away games we go to, you've only got a couple. Like, there's no, there's not a massive, like, the big city teams, including yourselves. You know, you see it as the rows and rows of stewards, and you see those photos of folk that have got their ticket in the front row and they can barely see the game because it's real that maybe a St Mirren game they'll do that, and maybe because it's kind of closer and we tend to take a big crowd. If we go to Perth or we go to I don't know, one of the Dundee teams or something, you don't usually get that, because I think we're probably not deemed that high risk. But Celtic Park, certainly from our support, has a reputation as consistently having the worst stewards. Right, interesting. Been absolute pricks, basically. We've had. I've heard third
person in the bounce to say that.
I've just said, like, stuff like you'll go to sit down, there won't be a seat there, and they'll come and tell you to sit down. Stuff like that. You're like, we don't want me to sit, and then they're like, they're going on about giving them attitude when you're like, well, you're telling me to sit down and there's no a seat. So there's that aspect of it. The police are the police everywhere. I don't. Might be different experience for Celtic and Rangers fans, and maybe Hearts and Hibs, I don't know. For me, the police are not often the problem. When you go to the football, the problem comes for the stewards. But I guess that's probably different for you guys because the police totally differently. But yeah, so the police generally fine. It's the stewards that I always find, and of course then if the police are going to take the steward's side on any, which I mean I get that they're not going to go in most cases side with a punter.
Like you say, there's kind of got to be a middle ground, isn't there?
Yeah, and it's so I just find that I'm generally not someone that gets involved in much, and so it doesn't like, you know, I'll push a line until somebody tells me, and then I'll be like, right, fine. I don't know, but so I don't usually get involved in it. But I know the experience for a lot of folk is just like it just puts them off as well, because it's like you're, as I say, you're paying all that money, you're stuck up in the seats. We've not mentioned the pole. I know you'll say about the pole in the away end.
It's next, mate.
Restricted view, and then you've got, you know, people pointless. And again, there's 300 there. Do you think we're really going to start anything against 60,000 folk? Like, no stupid.
Exactly, aye. Right, so we're in the game, right? We're in the game, and you've brought it up, the famous poll that's been spoken about by everybody, right? I mean, I have my opinion, probably exact same as you. It's an absolute shambles that you're paying money and you're stuck behind. That's even there, and it's never been dealt with at this point. So just give me an all-encompassing, right? Go for it. Tell me about what it's like to be a Kilmarnock fan who comes to Celtic Park, paid their money, and you're in, even if you're not behind it or something. Just give me a general. And tell me, do you boys ever make an atmosphere that you kind of go, this is magic, no, I can really like it, or it's
not at Celtic Park that often. I think it's part of the problem is you're always going to struggle to make an atmosphere when you're getting beat, and most of the time we'll come to you, and there's exceptions, but we'll be, you know, we do well if we've not conceded a goal in 15 minutes, and then it's just like, right, okay, same again. There's been a couple of times, I think, there was obviously the game when Steve Clarke was the manager, that we came, it was about this time of year, and we came to Parkhead and we were top of the league. And that day, you know, briefly, it was a bit of a, you know, an atmosphere about it, because you're like, you know, if we do something here, of course we got beat 5-1, but that's part, that always frames your atmosphere, right? So every Kelly fan will probably tell you their favourite away ground is Tynecastle. But one of the reasons our favourite away ground is Tynecastle is because we just always win there. Like our record there will be nearly as good as yours. Like it's that good.
Really?
Right? And so that's the first game we've got back after the break, so I've no doubt jinxed it. But we've won there already in the cup this season. But and I'm sure these things are linked, because there's usually few enough of us most of the time that you can not be behind the pole. We've got big poles in our main stand at Rugby Park as well. It's just that they're not as like precisely located slap bang in the middle of everything. But the game will start. I mean, the atmosphere obviously tends to be, Celtic Park's got a reputation for its big game atmosphere for Champions League games. Most Premiership games, and certainly Premiership games against Kilmarnock, it's a bit flatter than that, right? So if we get something going, we might build something up, but otherwise, yes, it's generally a bit of a kind of quiet afternoon. And you know, and then I find personally, I can understand it with your bigger games, but like Celtic playing all the music and the disco lights and all of that stuff for against Kilmarnock, a bit like you're like, aye, who's this for? Who's enjoying this? Maybe there's wee kids in the home end that are dancing about to it, I don't know. But that's kind of my experience, is that it feels a bit forced on a Premiership game. I don't know if folks mentioned singing and stuff. It doesn't bother me, and I don't think Celtic Park's that bad for the kind of the stuff folk would traditionally pick up. Probably not the place to go into my politics. I'm probably more sympathetic to Irish nationalism than some people. But so I'm probably not the best person to ask for a Kelly supporter. But there are times it goes over the score, I think, at Rugby Park and stuff. But the home games are probably at Celtic Park a bit different. So I'm probably.
Do you think that? I mean, is that another thing that lumps on top of the Kilmarnock fans maybe deciding this isn't for me? I mean, do I want to pay the money, sit in this? because you've not even talked about the view and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, the view, if you're not behind the pillars, fine. You're quite far away from the pitch, but that's the case some places as well. The views are all right. I don't like being in a corner. I think it's the worst place to sit. I don't mind being behind. I'd prefer behind the goal to a corner, to be honest. But so that the songs, it's hard for me to say. I sometimes feel, and maybe I'm wrong, I sometimes feel like folk just latch onto that once they get beat. Like it's been like that. There are issues with it, and I'm not saying there's not, but I do think personally, a lot of the moaning about it will start being like, oh, and after folk are already pissed off.
Yeah.
It wouldn't put me off going to a game. But again, maybe where I've grown up, I'm a wee bit I'm a wee bit not immune's not the right word. I've just it's never been a major part of my life. But you're kind of just it just goes over your head. You're just like, I've heard that 100 times before. Like, but
it's funny because I like yourself. I think you grow up with it. Even if you support it, you don't support it. I'm a big boy, do you know what I mean? It would take a hell of a lot for something to really offend me. Do you know what I mean? Football, I mean, like a lot of these things. However, I do understand if somebody's trapping with a win, they just don't want to hear that drivel, you know what I mean? Or they don't want to hear that nonsense. And I kind of get that side of it.
That's the difference. I said I've got a wee one now, and I've not taken her to the football yet. She's only 2, but eventually I'll hopefully try and get her into it. And
yeah.
It maybe would put me off a bit more when it's like, well, because then apart from anything else, I'm just going to get like, Dad, what does this mean and what does that mean? And I'm going, right, okay. Or she goes to school and starts repeating it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can understand it for that aspect, but as I said, when I'm saying it doesn't bother me, I mean it does not impact me personally. I don't mean it bothers me that it's still something that happens in our society, but it doesn't bother me in the sense that I will be personally affected by it.
I mean, if you were coming, if you the 35 quid stuff came down and you were coming to Glasgow and you were getting a right good go and every second or third game you were maybe getting a result, it's never going to be a thing that's ever going to make you kind of go, do you know what? Nah. I mean, all the other things are well above it. That makes sense. Yeah. Right. So, what about food? Do you ever buy anything at the game?
So I'm vegan, so I don't tend to.
Right. Okay. Right.
I used to buy stuff, but Celtic Park's a wee bit expensive, and I never get pies apart from at our place, like because they're good at our place, and I've never really seen them good anywhere else. But St Johnstone's the other place because they used to do the good. They do like a special pie of the month, so they stuff like. So when I used to eat meat and all the rest of it, I did get one there occasionally, but so I don't tend to bother with food at any football because you can't usually get much.
But it was interesting you said it was expensive because that's my belief as well. I think for what you're getting,
it's expensive everywhere. I mean, it's expensive at our place as well because it's funny. They were obviously doing a wee bit of renovation in the food places at Rugby Park, and they'd obviously found the old signs. So it was, but this was from I reckon I worked it out. I reckoned it was about 20 years ago, and the price of a pie was like 120 or something. And I was like, you're $3.50 now for a pie at the football, and it's. I think it's about 350. So it's like you see just how much it's escalated in that short period of time, and the price has not changed that drastically in a baker.
Exactly,
so,
aye.
You just see it. You just see that, and it's funny that obviously they dug out and that they didn't think, right, we better cover this up before come in again. But so yeah, it's the same everywhere. I've never noticed Celtic Park being worse than anywhere else. But as I say, I don't buy it much.
Right. Okay. So that kind of wraps us up. I'm going to ask you one last question before I let you go. Now, bearing in mind you said you've no been, but you could end up going this season, whatever, right? If there was a thing. And I suppose this is a general question for all your away games, but if there is a thing at Celtic Park that you would change straight away from as a Kelly fan coming to Celtic Park, what would it be? Would it be the price? Would it be the location? What?
Nah, the location. I was going to say, can I change the team on the park?
The results,
Can you stick the Cowden Beef team out there, and I'll probably go more often. But no, I will be the price. If that was 10, 15 quid cheaper, I would be there a lot more often. And that, I mean, that's the same everywhere, right? We talked about it the last time. It's too much, and it's too much. There's enough going on with folk spending money and everything else. It's you can't afford it.
Yeah. It's garbage the price, I think. But like I say, there's no point me and you going on about it. I dare say next time I'm talking to you on the thing, we'll talk about it again. But the price I fit with the new in Scotland for really what we're getting back. It's terrible, man. It really is terrible. But Craig, thank you very much once again for taking your time out tonight and helping me out with this. Before I let you go, social media, where are you on social media so that people can give you a follow?
Yeah, I'm Craig_Kelly on Twitter. If it's still alive when it comes into, I
comment on everything, Craig. You comment on everything. It's brilliant.
I wouldn't say I'm addicted to it because I can take days away from it, as you know, because you were trying to get a hold of me and I was trying to avoid the football scores of the last couple of days. But I'm lucky I've got a job. I can kind of sit in amongst doing stuff. I can just take a wee 10 minutes. I enjoy it. I think probably people think I'm a prick from that, and then they'll speak to me and be like, "Oh, he's actually all right." But it's a different.
I like the fact that you've got an opinion on Scottish football. I mean, you're biased towards Kelly, that's fair dues, but not to the point that you can't converse with you. And you've got an opinion on Celtic, you've got an opinion on Rangers, you've got an opinion on Aberdeen. I love it. I think you're a great follow, mate.
Well, that's good, and I'll keep doing it for as long as the website's there, I think. So.
Right. Well, once again, mate, thank you very much. I hope your season picks up for you personally.
Except the semi-final. Well, I hope it does.
It's high five on a Saturday at Hampden. Yeah. Craig, I think I'll be in something like that day to even worry about it, mate.
I've not bought my ticket yet actually because I'm going, but I'm just like I don't have a good feeling about the game at all.
I hope you're right, pal. Anyway, right, thank you very much again, mate, and all the best.
See ya.